This guy has been inspected and approved by Luminous.
Hey guys, this is SunsFan welcoming you to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Pudge. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for him at the corresponding link. Aside from being a fat mess, Pudge is what we would consider a ganking hero with a lot of tank ability. He is not item reliant whatsoever, but is very level dependent. Getting off to a good start is paramount to a successful Pudge, whose ability to snowball is very tough to match.
Skill build.
Pudge players tend to max out their hook and rot first before getting anything in the flesh heap. More times than not, at level 1 you will get rot first in order to harass, especially if you're going against another melee in a 1v1 situation. It is also common practice to use rot to finish off creeps that you fail miserably at last hitting. After that, you will try and max out hook over all other skills aside from your ultimate. The main benefit from leveling your hook is basically to gain massive range. And the reason Flesh Heap is ignored until level 10 is because any strength you may have missed out on while it wasn't skilled will be gained once you finally skill it, meaning it is retroactive. But picking up an early level of Flesh Heap could be considered if you feel the extra HP and magic armor is needed for your particular situation. And finally, as with many heroes, you will want to skill your ultimate as early as possible.
Item build.
Starting items for Pudge would include a stout shield and basic regeneration items. A stout shield could be substituted for a quelling blade if you're 1v1ing another melee in mid. The reason for this is your last hitting will become a top priority since there isn't a range hero to harass you down in lane. During the early stages of the game, assuming you're in the middle lane, getting a bottle would be very important for both the regeneration as well as bottling runes for ganks. An Urn of Shadows is also a possibility since ganking successfully will give you and your team a lot of health regeneration on the fly. The boots of choice for Pudge are wide-ranging. Everything other than Tranquil boots are a legitimate purchase. As an example, if your team is looking to push, then Arcane boots could be a great way to sustain that. If the opposing team has good mobility, then you may look into getting phase boots or even boots of travel for better chaseability. And then there are power treads, which are an all-around great option for a little more flexibility with your stats, whether you need a little bit more mana or HP capacity. For the middle stages of the game, your bread and butter item is a Hood of Defiance. The main reason for getting a magic resistance item is because you will take less damage from rot. The insane health regeneration doesn't hurt either. And although that is considered a core item on Pudge, it's not always needed. Depending on what lineup you're going against, you may just want to get a cloak and then tank up with an item like a Vanguard, especially when going up against more physical foes. A BKB could also be a solid choice here if you feel there are too many disables to get a proper ultimate off. And as a somewhat situational item, a Force Staff can actually help in a variety of ways, whether it be used in a kind of pseudo-initiation or to land some crazy-ass hooks. The all-around utility from an item like this should never be underestimated. Late game, if you finished a hood, a pipe is a very logical choice. A heart could also be considered here since it adds a large amount of strength as well as the fact that the damage you take while rotting will not cancel the health regeneration. Lastly, a great item if you feel confident in your ability to channel Dismember is an Aghanim Scepter, since you could potentially heal the full life by eating someone's face.
Gameplay.
Your intention with Pudge is to snowball into an out-of-control monster. Ganking is the main priority, so make sure you bottle those runes to the best of your ability. Pushing the lane with your rod is also a good tactic if you aren't 100% confident in getting the runes yourself. But subtlety is the name of the game for Pudge. If the opposing team has wards while you get a rune, you can't just barge into the closest lane expecting a free kill. Depending on what rune you get, you may want to enter through the actual lane, or even just go back to mid and when the lane is pushed, teleport to whatever lane needs a gank and have at it. Every time your ultimate is off cooldown, which, let's not kid ourselves, is most of the time, you'll want to gank at all costs. And although this may technically lie in the item department, the next two items are so useful for ganking that they should not be overlooked. The first item is a Smoke of Deceit, which can be an extremely helpful item for ganks, especially if the opposing team has the proper warding up. The second item is a simple teleportation scroll, which also allows you to bypass some potential wards. The reason for these items is because Pudge is very easily avoided during the laning stages if the proper ward control is possessed. But both smokes and TPs throw everything out of the equation, which is exactly what Pudge wants, because he can't do math anyway. And if you're thinking you should rely on your supports to buy the smokes, shame on you, good sir! A successful gank will more than pay for a smoke, so don't try to be stingy. And in the event the enemy is taking control of the game and solo kills are just not viable anymore, either try ganking with friends or just jungle up until you have the proper tank items to help with team fights. And as far as team fights are concerned, try to be your team's initiator with a well-landed hook. Forcing the other team's hand at what could be considered an inopportune time for them may be enough to turn the tides. In the actual team fight, try and use your ult on key enemy heroes, even those that already have BKB activated. Many people think that this would be a waste, but you need to understand that the damage coming out from Dismember is more icing to the cake. And in case you missed that analogy, the cake is the 3-second disable.
Friends and foes.
People that love to hang out with the fatty would include those that have easy disables of their own, therefore making it easier for Pudge to catch up and deal damage. Some examples of this would include Lion and Shadow Shaman with their plethora of disables. Omni Knight is also a very fun combination since his repel will prevent Pudge from taking any damage from his rot. And also be sure to add Darkseer to this list since both his Surge and Ion Shell applied to Pudge make chasing a real dream. Heroes that don't appreciate a little meat, meaning heroes Pudge should try and stay away from, would include those with silences or percentile damage. Silences because not only will it cancel your Dismember, but it will also prevent you from turning off your rot. Some examples of this would include Silencer, Death Prophet, Drow, and especially Pudge's longtime nemesis, Doombringer. Percentile damage is also feared because these heroes don't care how much HP Pudge has. An example of this is Necrolite with his Heartstopper aura doing 1.1% of your health in damage per second. Another example of this would be Lifestealer with his Feast doing 7% life leech. And a final example would be Huskar, whose life break will have no mercy on Pudge. Thanks for watching, guys, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a special shout out goes to Flawless for his help in writing this guide. You can check him out at his YouTube, which is linked in the following annotation. And finally, please be sure to check out our stream at own3d.tv/DotaCinema, where you can find tournament shoutcasts, as well as me playing with you. This was Sunsfan, and please, have my babies, please.